If someone had no clue about video games, I could understand not knowing anything about this series. For anyone somewhat interested in gaming's history, the original Doom marked the shift and true birth of a genre. We've waited a long time for a follow-up, and as confusing as reusing game titles can be these days, let's talk about Doom 2016. Or Doom 4, whatever. Doom! Church here, and welcome to the Game Grinder. Today we'll be reviewing Doom. For the sake of clarity, I'll be referring to it as Doom 4 for the rest of this review. Doom 4 was developed by the legendary id Software, most well known for its series, and you guessed it, Doom. But of course there's the Wolfenstein and Quake series as well. id Software, now under the umbrella of Bethesda, was published by Bethesda Softworks in May of 2016 for the PC, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One, and I played the game on PC. As should be expected from this famous franchise, Doom 4 is a sci-fi horror first-person shooter. It's future technologies, demons, and we got the first-person perspective. On the nose. I didn't even have to wiki that. The big question with Doom 4 comes from really one main concept. How to bring back the old-school, fast-paced, kick-ass because we're all out of gum original FPS of the 90s, and convert it into relevancy of today's FPS scene. Interestingly enough, the final product answers this exactly. Doom 4 is how. How Doom 4 does this is the nuance of this review, I suppose, and I'll try to hit on these points. So the most important piece of this equation is how the game plays. Drawing from some heavy comparisons, not because this is a reboot, because it's not. It's a continuation of the story from the previous games, as loose as those were. Anyways, Doom 4's ambition is to revive what made original Doom great. So on to the gameplay. Doom 4 is a return to roots. We have a variety of guns, health doesn't regenerate, and it's all about fast-paced action. As soon as we begin the game, we're already brutalizing demons from the get-go, and besides the lulls for exploration and backtracking between battles, it's balls to the walls. A vast majority of the action takes place in short bursts of enemy waves. We'll enter a room, the exits seal, and the demons begin spawning. Doom Guy then does what Doom Guy does best. Besides the usual variety of weapons, shotguns, railguns, and the Doom-famous BFG, our next best maneuver are the glory kills. Much like the FPS of Days Yonder, there is no health regen. Sure, we have health packs littered throughout the areas we explore, but when taking on wave after wave of demons, that's definitely not enough. So how to handle this? When enemies take enough damage, they'll begin to flash, alerting us that we can perform the glory kill. These are scripted evisceration finishing moves, and when performed, enemies will drop extra health. This mechanic is how the game keeps up its pace, keeping us in the zone, and turning the carnage into a spectacle. These quick fatality-like actions not only serve to help replenish health, but really serves to create a fluid and seamless rampage instead of the usual duck and cover, hide behind wall type games we've become accustomed to. Another neat piece of the glory kills is they work on all enemies, and targeting different body locations will result in different methods of slaughter. The other big element of combat, just like the previous series releases, is ammo management. Again, just like the health, ammo can be found throughout the areas, but it's never enough. Fortunately, and a very cool enhancement, is the handy dandy chainsaw. Who doesn't love using a chainsaw in video games? Not only will we be able to dismember demons, but using the chainsaw also causes enemies to drop a vast abundance of ammo. The trade-off with this chainsaw is its fuel usage. Small enemies use less fuel, big guys use a lot more, and its gas is a lot more scarce, so we'll usually have to rely on a variety of our guns, instead of just picking a single favorite, and I really appreciate that the game causes us to do this. It's also worth mentioning that throughout the levels, we'll find a drone robot that will allow us to pick an alternate fire of two sorts for our guns, which adds a little more spice and customization to gunplay. Of course, being Doom, we'll have our usual health spawn to plow through as we progress through the game. Series staples like Caco Demons, Hell Knights, and Pinkies return, and we'll have plenty of possessed human fodder to deal with as well. Doom 4 has a few larger baddies to deal with for boss fights too, and of course we gotta have a Cyber Demon. One thing about the bosses though, is I had hoped there would have been more of these, and the bosses that are there didn't present much of a challenge to me. It was pretty standard affair, but it's barely a complaint at that. I mentioned before that we'll have an opportunity to explore, and again this harkens back to the OG days of Doom, but isn't anything unique to the genre these days. We'll enter an area and have multiple routes and paths to explore, some inaccessible until area enemies have been cleared out, and one of my favorite things about this has returned that is seriously lacking in games these days: secrets. And does Doom 4 have its share of secrets? We'll be able to find weapon upgrades, armor upgrades, collectible Doom Guy figures that have multiplayer unlocks, and the best part, secret original Doom levels. Once finding a hidden level, a secret door will open and we can play in a section of some of the old Doom levels. Even better, once exiting the game, we can now select the original level and play through the full thing with new enemies and guns to use. Pretty sweet, I think. It's also worth mentioning that Doom 4 adds a lot of verticality to exploration. It has almost a parkour style of running and jumping that makes getting around incredibly fluid. Doom Guy will grab onto ledges and climb up, which really helps out with various platforming sections of the game. Yeah, you heard me. Platforming. For some reason, to me it feels like this is something that's been lacking in the FPS genre. Ever since Half-Life showed us how it's done, I really appreciate jumping over pits and traversing destroyed bridges. Doom Guy doesn't take fall damage, but it's Doom Guy, why would he? Doom 4 also includes an online multiplayer mode, mostly consisting of standard deathmatch type FPS modes including a payload escort of sorts. Playing matches gains experience gains levels, and that leads to unlockables like armor styles and victory dances. Additional weapons unlock when hitting certain levels. The neat thing about the multiplayer is there are random times when a demon rune will spawn, allowing us to change into one of the many demons for a short time. And this is really a lot of fun, but you're competing not only with the enemy team, but your team to get to the rune first. The drag about this is we don't get to play the demon nearly enough. All in all, if you enjoy deathmatch style multiplayer, it's pretty solid. Another awesome inclusion is the Snap Map feature. This is the custom level building mode that, as the name suggests, allows people to easily create their own levels, including objectives and story. These can be put online for others to play as well, and range from trial runs to recreations of original Doom levels. What's neat about this to me is, much like the original Doom community, it was all about creating mods, and this is a user-friendly way of doing just that. Before moving on to the story, which will be brief, I'll mention that I'll be hitting on some spoilers, so if you'd like to skip ahead, click on the annotation or skip to the time listed. Let's move on then. So first things first, with Doom 4 going for the old school approach, it tones down the story compared to the previous release. Doom 4 knows we're not here for the story, but instead of not having one at all, it's simple and to the point. It even pokes fun at the story-heavy FPS games, as Doom Guy knows what he's there for and usually disregards any story cues, which adds some subtle humor to it. So basically, as you could expect, someone has opened up a portal to hell again. The UAC, or Shady Government Agency, has been studying hell and how to harvest its energy for human usage, and someone is cracked. Dr. Olivia Pierce thinks it's best to let the forces of hell run rampant, and again, Doom Guy does what Doom Guy does, and demons die and hell rifts are closed. Along the way, we'll be assisted with instructions by Samuel Hayden, the now android director of the Argent facility. The rest is the usual. We'll go back and forth from hell a couple times, take out Olivia, recover a hellish artifact, and left with a cliffhanger ending, which of course leads us to the probable sequel or DLC story. I'm cool with this. Doom 4's overall presentation is kind of what I would have expected for the sequel. It's a great looking game with a lot of details and little touches everywhere. Nothing in particular stood out to me, but that's neither good or bad. What is definitely good is how the game is optimized and how well it runs. For the PC version at least, having a beefy computer will easily allow max settings, but even at lower settings it still looks pretty dang good. To enhance the chaos, and again looking back at its roots, Doom 4 has a metal as fuck soundtrack to accompany us during our playthrough. Mick Gordon, the composer who also worked on the most recent Wolfenstein games, went with a very interesting direction with the music. A lot of it would fall under the gent genre, heavily palm-muted, low-tuned sound, and mixing in some unique noise elements to give an appropriate skull-crushing theme during our many enemy encounters. My largest gripe with the game, and it's really only my fault, is I didn't find many secrets during my playthrough. I'm either blind or inattentive because I missed the vast majority of the Doom Guy figures and the unlockable levels. But this does encourage replay by being able to pick the levels to play, so that's something. There's not much that I can say about Doom 4 that hasn't already been said. It was a considerably popular release and expectations were through the roof. And with this being gaming and YouTube, so many people have already reviewed it. Regardless of this though, I still wanted to share my thoughts on it. They did a fantastic job of giving an old genre some revitalization and making old concepts feel fresh again. It's great to know that if you're playing Doom, any Doom, you're gonna have a good time. Towards the end of the game it started to get a little tedious, but they chose an effective time to end the story, and it's done in a way that leaves me wanting more. If you haven't already played it, or know that you will, if you dig Doom, you'll dig Doom 4. Thanks for checking out my review of Doom 4. What were your thoughts on the game? Let me know in the comments below. If you liked what you've seen or heard, please give the video a like, a share, and subscribe to see future videos. I'm on Twitter and Facebook as well, and I post a lot of the great game-related content there, and of course links are in the description. Until next time on the Game Grinder.